New at 6, American and French sailors are training aboard the Norfolk-based USS George H.W. Bush.
It's been a long time in the making. 13 News Now got an inside look as fighter pilots from both countries learn from one another for 10 days aboard the carrier. The French are aboard the Bush while the French Navy's flagship carrier undergoes maintenance. It's an experience that goes beyond the day-to-day operations.
You have sailors and sailors working together side by side and who are finding out that they have far more in common than they have apart. The language which some people might think is a barrier, it tends not to be, and because of the mission that they're doing together.
All right, we also spoke to numerous French sailors about their experiences. Some say it was their first time on an American carrier. You can see more reports on 13 News Now from reporter Stephen Graves starting next week.